Ebelstein was a suffocating maze of jagged rooftops and twisting alleyways, and deep in the grime of its slums, a ragged old geezer wasted away. The locals dubbed him the boastful old man. The guy could barely scrap together one-star magic, yet he walked the streets with his chest puffed out, acting like he owned the place. He'd spark a pathetic flicker of blue light in his palm and scream at the top of his lungs that he was some legendary Archmage. His fuse was shorter than a burnt match. Local kids would pull the mildest pranks and he'd instantly go nuclear, foaming at the mouth the second his patience snapped. Weirdly enough, Derek actually learned magic from this lunatic. No prophecy, no grand destiny involved. The old guy just wanted a fanboy to stroke his ego, and Derek was hungry for knowledge. Night after night, under the shadow of twisting trees by a dying campfire, the old man would wag a finger, lecturing, and drilling the basics into Derek's skull. The fire crackled between them as time slipped by, seasons bleeding into one another. Skeleton branches and biting winds eventually surrendered to fresh greenery and the warmth of spring, and observation finally shifted to action. In a quiet clearing, Derek dropped to his knees, centering his breath. He pressed his palms into the dirt as a faint electric blue aura shimmered around him. Sweat beaded on his forehead, as the mana inside him finally clicked into the rhythm the old man described. The geezer stared jaw on the floor, eyes popping as he realized Derek had actually grasped the flow of mana. He started to speak, then trailed off. Like his brain couldn't process what he was seeing, the atmospheric pressure dropped like a rock. Derek's vision snapped into high definition. His crimson eyes mirrored the swirling blue surge. As the raw mana screamed, threatening to break loose, he crushed it into shape, shoving it outward. Pure energy erupted from his hands in a violent arc, morphing into a blazing blue beam that tore through the air. The bolt slammed into a rock face with a deafening crack, spraying sparks and dust as it gouged deep into the stone with terrifying force. Behind him, the old man stood frozen, absolutely shook by the power he just witnessed. But the grind didn't stop between endless chores, and tolerating the old guy's constant nagging, Derek kept training. Within a single year, he officially hit one-star mage status. At night, the old man would get wasted and ramble on about how the world had already set a glass ceiling for everyone. He claimed that past Ebelstein's northern walls, noble kids were hitting 3-star levels before they were even old enough to vote. He said a peasant like Derek with his commoner blood could grind for 100 years and still never touch that level of power. He warned him not to get cocky, insisting Derek's mediocre talent would hit a hard wall at 2-star magic, eventually forcing him to quit. The guy never got tired of yapping about genetics. To him, magic was all about your bloodline, and hard work was a joke compared to pedigree. Derek just listened in silence, chewing on stale bread, as the same toxic rant played on loop, building an invisible barrier between the elite and the gutter rats. Sometimes Derek wondered if the old man talked trash, because he was bitter about his own failures. That particular night felt suffocatingly long. The old man passed out near the dying fire, but Derek stayed awake, staring into the abyss as the embers faded to gray. Then the skies opened up. Rain hammered down in sheets, drowning the world until everything turned cold and colorless. When Derek came back the next day, the old man was gone. His body lay sprawled in the mud, beaten black and blue. Derek stood over him, water soaking his hair, assuming the old fool had finally mouthed off to the wrong person. Later, the truth came out. The city guards had worked him over after catching him red-handed, trying to heist a 2-star magic tome from a warehouse. Derek couldn't wrap his head around it. Why would a guy who preached about limits pull a stunt like that? No one had answers. The boastful old man had hammered the bloodline rule into Derek, until it was etched into his soul. Yet Derek knew he'd never have noble blood, and that was simply because he wasn't even from this dimension. Suddenly, a holographic blue window popped up, Basics of Magic, Mastered. It demanded he choose a primary magic class, warning that the choice was permanent. Fast forward 4 years. Enter Cadia Flameheart. She was the ex-heiress of the ruined Flameheart house, a noble by birth, and a lethal 3-star mage. Mercenary crews were desperate to recruit her. While she was laying low in Ebelstein, she signed with the Beldrin mercenaries and started mentoring Derek, who was just a rookie casting 1-star spells at the time. Katia taught him tricks only a high-tier mage would know. One night at the Beldrin's Tears Tavern, she told him it's part of a mage's DNA to hunger for more power to climb higher, and noted that Derek actually had that spark. But she dropped a warning: getting too greedy will only wreck your progress. Derek promised to keep that locked in his brain. Katia told him to shut his eyes and tap into the mana source. She guided him to calmly sense its origin, trace the flow, and visualize exactly what he wanted to bring into reality. Derek is locked in a thin blue aura, flaring to life around him. Sweat beads on his forehead as he grinds through the focus. Katia watches like a hawk and drops a comment that he is packing a serious mana pool. She notes that probably thanks to his street fighting history, his control is freakishly stable. Suddenly, the energy spikes hard, flooding Derek's senses, until his eyes snap open under the crushing pressure. Katia's face drops as she clocks the sudden shift. Boom! A massive crash tears through the tavern, shaking the walls. Mercs scramble up, screaming and demanding answers. Someone hollers it might be a raid and orders a perimeter check. Meanwhile, Derek is staring at his own hands, watching faint mana vapor coil around them. He snaps his head up, calling for his master. Katya doesn't hesitate. She grabs his wrist and hisses at him to shut up and move. Outside, the crowd is on edge. One guy mutters, "That was definitely a blast they just heard." He warns the crew to keep their heads on a swivel because that was no accident. Katya drags Derek into a tight alley, moving toward the orange glow. Derek tries to get her attention again. Visibly rattled, Katya spins around with a stone-cold glare. She tells him to listen closely because she is only saying this once. Derek nods. Katya breaks it down. Nobles are obsessed with their status and magic. That is the ultimate gatekeep. She adds that raw power is called a blessing, but only if you have got blue blood. For a commoner to hit 3-star rank, that is basically a myth. And when it does happen, it is usually some old guy who spent his whole life grinding for it. Katya points at the chaos outside. That wasn't real. Derek just cast a 2-star illusion spell. Auditory hallucination. Derek freezes, letting that sink in. Suddenly, a system window pops in his HUD. Access to 2-star magic, unlocked. Skill acquired, auditory hallucination. Derek realizes that right then and there, at 14 years old, he officially became a 2-star mage. From that day on, Katya keeps him close, drilling him on new spells. And sometimes, she drops lore about the high society life she left behind. A year flies by like that, until reality hits. Katya has to bounce. The Count Elvester family hired her as a private tutor. This isn't just any gig. They answer to Margrave Elvester, a heavy hitter even the Grand Duke in the capital respects, meaning she literally cannot say no. Becoming a magic instructor for a house with that kind of clout is a golden ticket. Before she dips, Katya hands Derek a 2-star grimoire as a parting gift. A blue interface flares up, spell list acquired. It is loaded. Combat magic, mana arrow. Full manifestation fireball. Conversion magic, light creation. Illusion magic, sound barrier. Plus auditory hallucination. Summoning guide fairy. Detection, direction sense. He is stacked. Derek sits in the silence book in hand. Head down, grinding, burning every single word into his muscle memory. Another year fades. Derek self-teaches 2 more spells. Now at 16 years old, he knows he is just getting started. Cut to Beldrin's Tears Tavern. A massive dude with shoulders like a linebacker leans over the counter. He tells Derek they finally snagged a real gig after a long drought. Derek asks for the details. The guy grins like a shark. The client, the Grand Duke Duplain family. He asks if Derek gets how huge that is. Derek repeats the name, totally skeptical, asking why a powerhouse like that would hire them. The guy snaps that the why doesn't matter. It is the Duplains. These guys spend gold like it is trash. He argues that if they network with them now, it sets them up for life. Derek ignores the hype and drills down. What is the actual mission? The guy waves it off. Nothing crazy. Just hunting some monsters on the edge of the Grand Duchy. Derek raises an eyebrow. That is it. The guy swears on it, claiming noble lords do not lie about this stuff. Derek rubs his chin, sighing. It stinks. Why would the mighty Duplain family need budget mercenaries for pest control? Derek stands up. He is out. Tells the guy to find another sucker. The guy lunges, desperate. Wait, Derek tells him to hire someone else. He does not do shady jobs. The guy snaps that he would do it solo, but then he yells the problem. They need a mage. And mages are unicorns in the merc world right now. He points a finger right at Derek's chest. Derek is the only option, which is why he is begging. Derek looks down, unimpressed. He says it does not add up. Why they need a caster for a simple monster hunt. He is not risking his neck without a good reason. The guy's barking orders again, flashing a single gold coin like it's a ticket to paradise. "One Adele gold coin," he hollers. Then comes the bait and switch, he clarifies fast. That's just the down payment. The coin hits Derek's palm. Derek doesn't smile. His face goes stone cold. Enter the VIPs. An older gent rocking a monocle and a razor-sharp mustache, a lady dripping in finery, and a mysterious figure in a hood face completely swallowed by shadow. The big guy gestures toward the group, nudging Derek. Greet them. These are the clients. But the mustache guy just sizes Derek up and shakes his head. This is a joke, right? He scoffs. He's a child. Hasn't even had his coming-of-age ceremony. He continues, I heard rumors about a hero from the Dawn War, but this, he clicks his tongue in disgust, complaining that entrusting this gig to a little boy is totally unacceptable. The big guy goes into damage control mode, waving his hands like a maniac, arguing with pure desperation. You got it wrong, Derek is the real deal. He's the most capable mage I know, hands down. Monocle Man isn't buying it. He spins around. We're leaving. I'm not entrusting this mission to a toddler. At the doorway, the butler freezes. The woman beside him leans in close, whispering something urgent. His face tightens as he glances back, but the hooded woman, she stays put. watching silently from the sidelines. Finally, she turns to the protagonist. "Are you Derek?" she asks, voice smooth. "We need to talk." Cut to the Grand Duchy of Duplain. Out of nowhere, Screech a Goblin lunges from the outskirts. Derek steps up, zero hesitation. Shinga's blade flashes once. A clean strike cuts the charger right in half. Blood sprays, and the creature's body snaps back before hitting the dirt. Another one tries a sneak attack from behind, but Derek pivots and strikes, dropping it before it can even touch him. As the horde rushes in, blue mana crackles around his body, exploding outward in jagged lines, locking the goblins in place. Electric light floods the air as their limbs seize up and they freeze. One by one, they go down. Derek glances over his shoulder, looking bored. "It is finished," he tells the dispatch officer. The officer crosses his arms impressed. "Understood." Under the hood, the mystery woman's lips curl into a smirk. "You cleaned house fast." Back at Beldrin's Tears, tavern chaos erupts. A blonde bombshell loses it. "You became a noble's lapdog, Derek." She screams, storming over. She literally climbs onto a table. The big guy panics. "Hey, get down. We got customers," he warns. She snaps back. "I don't care if they're broke commoners. We don't stoop to serving nobles." She glares at Derek. "How much was the job? Did you sell your pride to crawl between a noble's legs?" Derek's deadpan. "Crawling between legs wasn't in the contract." The blonde pushes. "So how much did you get?" "Let me guess, a lousy silver coin." The big man shakes his head, grinning like an idiot. "1. Gold. Coin." Her jaw drops, and she screams in pure joy. "Sign me up, I'll crawl between legs right now." The big guy snaps. "Quiet," yelling again that crawling is definitely not part of the gig. Cut to later that night, the blonde is passed out on the table, cheek marinating in a puddle of drool. The big man asks for the debrief. "Nothing special," Derek shrugs. "Just caught a few goblins." The man sighs. "First impression sucked, but hey, the client seemed loaded." Derek nods, then drops a bomb. "They were all lying." The big man blinks. "Serious." Derek breaks it down. "A noble's dispatch officer needs youth, stamina, and charm. That guy had none. I looked for those traits, zero. And the woman claiming to be a scullery maid, her hands were way too clean. Not the hands of someone doing physical labor." He starts on the supposed apprentice inspector, but the big guy cuts him off. "Derek," he warns, "mercenaries don't dig into the client's dirty laundry. We do the job, we take the cash. Period." Derek replies, "Understood." Internally, he knows Jaden is right. In the wild, survival is the only stat that matters. Everything else is noise. The next day, back in the Grand Duchy, Derek reports area cleared. Goblins won't be back for a while. The monocled man nods. Solid work. Jaden doesn't waste time getting to business, asking about the rest of the cash. When the coins drop, Jaden's eyes go wide. He holds them up, screaming 2 gold coins. He marvels at the loot. Derek sighs. "Put it away and act like you've been here before." Monocle man clears his throat. "I highly value your skills, Derek. I have another request." Jaden looks confused. "Huh." The man drops the bombshell. The Grand Duke's estate offers 15 Adele gold coins for this task. Jaden practically explodes at the number. The man looks at Derek. "Will you accept?" Derek doesn't blink. "I will." A carriage ride later, they pull up to Duplain Manor. Jaden just stares at the massive estate jaw on the floor. "Impressive work," the man notes. But before they cross the threshold, he adjusts his monocle. "Time for proper introductions, don't you think?" Jaden freaks out at the sudden vibe shift. He frantically waves his hands, sweating. "Whoa, chill, we're already a team here. No need for the stiff formalities. Comfort is key, but so is truth." The man straightens his posture. "I'm Dylan. I serve as the chief steward of the Grand Duke's estate." He offers a slight practiced bow. "Apologies for the cloak and dagger routine earlier. The nature of my duty required discretion." Jaden freezes his brain, short-circuiting. "Grand Duke." The pressure is instant. Then the woman steps up, radiating authority. "And I am Katerina, head maid of the estate." Jaden stumbles over his own tongue, bowing fast. "Right, Jaden here, boss of the Beldern mercenaries. At your service." Derek stays quiet, red eyes scanning them. Not a dispatch officer, not a kitchen maid, chief steward and head maid. Figured as much, he thinks. Though their rank is way higher than I anticipated. Then the hooded figure moves. Silk whispers against the stone floor as she approaches. Derek locks onto her, the puzzle pieces clicking into place. If the help is that high-ranking, then she must be. She reaches up. The hood falls back, golden hair cascading down like liquid light. "I am Iselin Eleanor Dupain." Her gaze is steady, regal. "And I want you, Derek, as the magic tutor for my little sister, Diella." Iselin Eleanor Dupain, the eldest daughter of the house, stares right into his soul. It's a request that feels like a command. The Grand Duke's estate pierces the sky, pale stone, sharp spires, and a deadly silence hanging over the guards below. Inside, chaos. Reg bursts into the office, shouting, "Father Valerian, you need to see this." The man behind the desk doesn't blink. He just glares, voice low. "What do you think you're doing? Watch your tone, boy. Show some dignity." "My dignity," Reg snaps, face flushed. Diella is the one losing it. She's totally out of control, attacking the people I hired. In the corner, a maid trembles, tears streaming down her face. Valerian cuts him off cold. Lower your voice. We are in the middle of a discussion. Reg doesn't back down. Over 10 staff quit last month alone. She smashes everything in sight whenever she has a mood swing. Reg slams a hand on the desk. How long are you going to turn a blind eye to this? Valerian's patience snaps. Reg. The name cracks through the room like a whip. Reg takes a breath, voice dropping to a deadly calm. Look, even if Diella is useless, we still have Iselin. He pauses, eyes hard. It's time to cut Diella loose. Valerian shuts him down instantly. That isn't your call to make. Reg pushes anyway. I already had the steward look into a monastery. The facilities are top tier. Other nobles send their rejects there. Reg argues logic cold as ice. Why let her live here, treated like a burden? Let her devote herself to God's will instead. He leans in, voice sharp. If keeping her here means dragging this family through the mud, then we need to wham. In a blur, his father lunges, seizing him. Valerian pins him down, crushing pressure radiating from his grip. I believe I told you, he hisses. This is not your decision. Reg. He says the name again, low and dangerous. The son freezes, paralyzed under the father's hand. When the time comes, I will be the one to decide. Cut to later, Derek walks the quiet halls with Iselin. You know, of my younger sister Diella, she asks. Derek nods once. Saw the name in the family registry, but I've never seen her face, he adds. Iselin sighs. Figured. Diella isn't exactly public friendly. Thud. A heavy door swings open ahead. Valerian steps out, Reg trailing behind him. Father Iselin stammers. Valerian smooths his expression instantly. Iselin. Been a while. He glances at her. Ebelstein, treating you well. Yes, thanks to your care I've been comfortable, she replies politely. Valerian's eyes flick to Reg, who looks wrecked. We'll catch up later, Valerian says abruptly. Understood, Iselin replies. Derek watches from the shadows. His gaze sharpens. Valerian is pressing a cloth to Reg's head, wiping sweat, or blood. Both men stare straight ahead, masks on tight. But Derek catches the vibe instantly. His red eyes narrow, tension you could cut with a knife. A few feet away, a maid stands hunched over. She's shaking face, buried in her hands, sobbing silently. Cut to the Grand Duke's office. Valerian sits there, back to being the perfect statue of a duke. Relieved to hear you're doing well. All thanks to you, father. She forces a gentle smile and gestures to Derek. This is the magic tutor I brought back from Ebelstein. He's agreed to take charge of Diella. Valerian shifts his gaze, dissecting Derek with a single look. I see. One nod. Iselin stands up immediately. You seem busy, so we'll get out of your hair. She turns to leave, Derek shadowing her step for step. They almost make it to the door. Wait. The Grand Duke barks an order for Derek to hang back. Derek freezes at the threshold, shooting a guarded look over his shoulder before ziplocking his mouth. Ignoring him, the Grand Duke keeps scratching his quill across the parchment. Finally, he snaps his gaze up. He sizes Derek up, noting he looks like a total kid, confirming he is just 16. Derek nods, simple and sharp. The Duke grills him on his mana control. Derek plays it cool, claiming he can only scrape together a bit of one-star magic. A low, dry chuckle escapes the Duke. He warns Derek that lying is pointless, and playing the humble card isn't doing him any favors here. Derek keeps a straight poker face, but internally he realizes the Grand Duke's reputation isn't just hype, it's heavy. Trying to lowball a 5-star mage was a rookie move. Derek pivots, apologizing if his act came off as shady. The Duke waves it off, admitting he understands exactly why a guy like Derek keeps his cards close to his chest. He drops a warning. Raw talent can consume you if you aren't careful. Then he eyes Derek's drip, noting he looks less like a professor and more like a street brawler. Derek admits he's a mercenary by trade. Since Iselin vouched for him, the Duke decides to drop the interrogation. He clears Derek for access to the annex where Diella is holed up and signals a maid to play tour guide. Dismissed. Derek starts to leave but freezes. He asks for one condition. The Duke signals for him to spill it. Derek emphasizes that as a sword for hire, once he accepts a mission, completing it is non-negotiable. He clarifies the gig Lady Aislinn paid him to turn Lady Diella into a magic-wielding socialite, ready for the big leagues. The Duke notes that's old news. Derek insists he is restating the obvious to set up a serious request. The Duke's expression shifts to intrigue. Meanwhile, chaos erupts elsewhere. Fine china smashes against a wall, exploding into shrapnel. Shards fly everywhere. A terrified maid shrieks, dropping to her knees and shaking like a leaf. She begs for forgiveness, stammering out apologies to Miss Diella. Diella towers over her eyes, Frosty mocking the girl for thinking sorry actually fixes anything. Flexing her rank, she demands the maid vanish. She threatens to aim the next plate right at her face if she dares show up again. Back in the lounge, tea goes cold as Jaden demands to know why on earth they picked Derek. He argues they should have top-tier tutors lining up around the block for House Dupain. A commoner teaching a noble Jaden thinks it is a disaster waiting to happen. Aislinn just looks down. She admits she already scouted every big-name mage on the continent. They all quit. That is why she went for the underdog, someone with skills, but desperate enough to stick around. She points out that despite his mercenary gig, Derek actually understands noble etiquette. Jaden counters that Derek's mentor was a disgraced noble who used to be a big deal, so Derek likely picked up a trick or two from him. A small smile touches Aislin's lips. She sensed a gentle vibe under his rough exterior, hoping he could tame Diella with kindness. Jaden chuckles, telling Lady Aislinn she needs to stop looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. Confused, Aislinn asks for clarification. Jaden reminds her Derek is a mage who grew up on the asphalt. The guy was a child soldier. Does she really think you survived the gutter by being nice? Aislinn stiffens, silence hanging heavy. Cut to Derek being led down the hallway by Dylan and the maid. Derek strides forward, cool and collected. He halts at a massive door, lifting a gloved hand. He pauses just a heartbeat before knocking. Silence. He grips the handle and pushes inside. Stepping into the lion's den, he introduces himself as Derek, apologizing for the intrusion. A silhouette sits by the sunlit window, beckoning him closer. She turns light, catching her hair. Meet Diella Catherine Dupain, the family's second daughter. Derek steps forward, his cloak sweeping the floor. A wicked smirk curls Diella's lips. Suddenly, splash. Icy water blasts Derek, drenching his face and soaking his gear to the bone. He freezes water dripping from his jaw, silently exhaling. Diella covers her mouth in mock horror. "Oh my God," she gasps, feigning surprise. "I thought a sewer rat scurried in." She asks if he is the help. Then, tilting her head, she sneers that he actually does look like a rat. Climbing onto her chair, she towers over him in her crimson dress and dumps a second bucket on his head. "A special welcome gift," she taunts. "Does the smell of gutter water make you feel at home?" That wet look actually suits him. Water streams down Derek's dark hair and lashes, dripping onto the floor as he stands there like a statue, gaze fixed downward. Diella stares at the empty pitcher, bored. She sighs and complains. "Ugh, out of water already. Total buzzkill. What a shame." Derek's eyes flick upward just a fraction, and the vibe shifts instantly. Diella's smirk falters, her face twisting into a look of pure disgust. The second his eyes meet hers, she boots him to the ground. She snaps, "Who gave you permission to look at me?" Looming over him in her crimson gown, chin high, she slips off her shoe. "God, you reek," she mutters, voice dripping with revulsion. Pinching her nose as she eyes the puddle forming around him, she chucks the shoe right at his head. Then she steps right up to his face. "Know your place, you filthy sewer rat." She scoffs at the thought of him being her tutor. "Clearly the streets didn't teach you any common sense if you think you can handle me." Meanwhile, the Grand Duke's office is drowning in heavy tomes and paperwork, golden sunlight cutting across the mahogany desk. His Grace replays the earlier conversation. Derek stands before the powerful Duke, dead serious, stating, "The fact that I am standing here means Lady Diella isn't an easy fix. So I have one question for the man who loves her. More than anything else, how much authority are you willing to give me to teach her a lesson?" The Grand Duke doesn't speak, but his gaze sharpens like a blade. Back in Diella's room, that request is about to be answered. Crack, the sound snaps through the air like a whip. Diella's head jerks back, cheek-burning, red eyes wide with absolute shock. She crumbles to the floor, stunned silence filling the room, hand hovering over the stinging mark. Derek towers over her in cold shadow. His cloak settles around him, red eyes completely void of emotion. "Get up," he commands. Cut to 3 years ago, a rickety wagon rattling down a dirt road. Derek sits next to his mentor. "Teacher," he asks, "what's the move?" "If you get stuck with a stubborn student who spits on kindness," she pauses to think. "I'd try to understand them," she says softly. "Embrace them. Bring them in." Derek counters. "Isn't that a bit naive?" "What do you do with a student where that simply doesn't work?" he presses. "Teaching is about guiding them to a better path," she explains. "If understanding and acceptance fail to get through, you have to find a new starting line." Derek asks, "And what is that?" "You carve fear into their bones. Snap back to reality." Diella's eyes bulge as Derek moves again. Whack, another strike echoes. Diella's cheek flares red as she hits the deck, clutching her face in disbelief. Derek looms over her. "From now on, you will treat people with consideration and respect. Don't make me repeat myself. Get up." Diella scrambles to her feet, shaking with pure rage. She swings wildly, fist connecting with his cheek. "How dare you?" she shrieks, trembling. "A lowlife like you touching me." Slap, he hits her again harder. Derek stares down unmoved. "I told you I won't say it twice." When dealing with others, show respect. Diella forces a twisted, disbelieving smile, lips trembling. She lets out a confused little gasp, then snaps. She spins around screaming, "Grand, steward, help. This peasant dared to touch a noble lady." The chief steward bursts in, maids trailing behind. "Lady Diella, are you hurt?" He turns a death glare on Derek. "What the hell do you think you're doing? You dare strike the young miss. If the Grand Duke hears about this," Derek calmly pulls out a sealed scroll. "His Grace has given me absolute authority over Miss Diella's education," Derek states flatly. "That includes permission to use whatever methods I deem necessary." The steward reads the paper face paling while Diella stares at the document in horror. Night falls over the Duplin estate. In the hallway, Reg tries to hold Valerian back. Bro, chill out. But Valerian is seeing red. That Derek guy is the mercenary. The mercenary inside Derek sits quietly, eyes barely open. Valerian kicks the door open, lunging forward. You bastard. You hit Diella. Reg wraps his arms around Valerian, begging, put the weapon down. Let's talk. Derek slowly turns his head. His grace signed off on it, Derek says, bored. Reg shoves Valerian back. He's Aisline's guest. If you start a brawl, you'll ruin Aisline's reputation. Dad agreed to this too. Valerian grinds his teeth, swallowing his fury. He points a shaking finger at Derek. You, with me, now. He snaps at Reg. Stay out of this. Go handle your own business. Reg sighs and falls in step with Derek. Look, I heard the rumors, Reg whispers. Honestly, Diella needed a beatdown to wake up. Don't sweat it. Valerian won't go too far. Derek just glances back over his shoulder, unbothered. Valerian strides into the shadows, his crimson eyes fixed forward, cold, unreadable. Rag watches the silhouette fade into the darkness. Rag scoffs, muttering under his breath. He doesn't get why Valerian wastes energy protecting a lost cause like her. A lone beam of light cuts through the gloom, hitting a porcelain doll frozen on the floor. Valerian pauses at a door, gesturing for Derek to enter. Inside, the air feels stale. Valerian explains this was Diella's sanctuary within the main estate, untouched since the day she left. Derek steps into the chill. His gaze sweeps over abandonment, blank canvases, and dried-up paint tubes scattered everywhere. She used to live for art, Valerian murmurs. Whenever she asked me to look at her sketches, she'd turn beet red. It was honestly adorable, he sighs. But she never finished anything. Most of the time, she'd leave massive blank spaces, only drawing the bits she actually liked. Valerian goes quiet. He clears his throat. About earlier. Sorry, I lost my cool. Derek waves it off instantly. Don't sweat it. Derek eyes the half-done paintings. Why show me this? Valerian's expression is heavy. I needed you to see that Diella wasn't always broken. She wasn't a kid who deserved to be beaten or hated. But somewhere along the line, she got hyper-fixated on bloodlines. It consumed her. He says eventually she was kicked out of the main house and locked in the annex. I can't even guess what snapped inside her to turn her into that. We have to stop the monastery transfer, Valerian insists. If she masters just one-star spell, I can talk our father down. He grips Derek's shoulders, desperate. Please, save her. Derek freezes mid-breath. Hold on. He cracks open a dusty book. She hasn't quit yet, Derek notes, tracing the frantic margin notes. Not completely. Derek points to a stack in the corner. Those are all theory textbooks from the School of Regulations, right? Valerian nods. Yeah, standard curriculum for nobles. Derek snaps the book, shut eyes narrowing as a plan forms. All right, I'll take the job. Nightfall at the annex. Diella is dead to the world, hair sprawled across the pillow, breathing easy. Derek looms over her bucket in hand. He tips it without a second thought. Splash ice-cold water crashes down. Diella wakes up, screaming, thrashing in the soaked sheets. Derek stares down at her. Seriously, sleeping Diella gasps, blinking through the shock. What the hell, she chokes out. Are you insane? Derek doesn't explain, he just grabs her. Come with me, he commands. We've got places to be. Diella fights him, clawing at his grip. Let go, she shrieks. You have no right to touch me. Are you crazy? It hurts. Let go, she screams, digging her heels in. I'm not going anywhere. Maids peek from the hallway, terrified. She shouts at him to stop calling him low-born trash, demanding to know what he thinks he's doing. Derek ignores her, dragging her into the freezing moonlight. He doesn't slow down. Her nightgown snags on the grass. She stumbles, and he yanks her forward until she hits the dirt. Hard. She cries out, hitting the ground. Diella glares up, tears mixing with rage. You think this changes anything? Wake up from your dream, she snaps. Who do you think you are trying to teach me? Derek cuts in. You done listening to yourself, he asks. Here's a fun fact. Diella freezes, confused by his tone. Honestly, I have zero intention of teaching you magic, Derek deadpans. I just really enjoy beating up stuck-up nobles. Diella jolts. Excuse me, you heard me, Derek smirks. Why would a nobody like me help a noble? The tutor gig, just a cover. A free pass to humble. Arrogant, high and mighty elites like you. His hand drifts to his hilt. The blade clicks, ready to draw. Ever heard how pretty a noble screams? Her breath hitches. You think you'll be safe after this? Derek laughs coldly. Of course I will. You're getting shipped to a monastery anyway. Who's gonna believe the crazy girl? His voice drops. Worst case, I pay with my life. A commoner's life is cheap, right? Or I just vanish. Honestly, getting rid of you is doing the Duplin family a favor. I'm solving their biggest headache. The blood drains from Diella's face. I'm going to die. She bolts. Adrenaline explodes as she tears across the grass, dress whipping in the wind. If he catches me, I'm dead. She cuts straight for the open grassland, running for her life. Heading for the manor, suicide mission. He'd snatch her up before she even hit the driveway. She banks hard toward the timberline home turf advantage. She knows these woods like the back of her hand. Lose him, here, circle back later. Panic lights up her eyes as she pushes her legs to the limit. Run or die, she tells herself. Suddenly, the air behind her turns into a blast furnace. Diella jerks mid-stride, feeling that searing heat on her neck. She whips around, pupils dilating as a swirling inferno blooms in the pitch black. A fireball. A massive one. Her brain short-circuits. That's a Tier 2 spell. Impossible. She screams internally, demanding to know how a low-life like him is flinging Tier 2 magic. The blazing sun bomb roars down, locking onto her coordinates. Kaboom. The explosion lights up the forest edge like a flashbang. Diella screeches as the shockwave sends her flying. Dirt and sparks spray everywhere as the fireball detonates in a violent flower of destruction. She hits the dirt, rolling frantically while the heat wave washes over her. Eyes wide trembling, she spots Derek through the smoke wearing a faint, creepy smirk. Whoops, he quips. Guess my aim's a little off. Diella scrambles up, adrenaline, flooding her system, pounding through the wet grass. Gritting her teeth, she forces her body to move, but her legs give out. She face plants into the mud, groaning as her knees smash the earth. Crack. A sharp streak of blue energy slams into the ground inches from her head. Diella snaps her head up, gasping for air. Another blue shot bites the dirt, close enough to spray debris in her face. Derek's voice floats through the dark, chill and mocking. You're pretty quick on your feet. Hard to believe you got that kind of speed, he adds, for someone locked up in the annex 24/7. Diella shoots a look of pure venom over her shoulder, then sprints back into the shadows. Her thoughts are spiraling out of control. How long can I keep this up, she wonders. Can I even escape? The realization hits her like a brick at this rate. He's definitely going to bag her. Behind her, Derek drops a knee and presses a glowing palm to the soil. Blue mana ripples out in a circle like a sonar ping. He scans the canopy, realizing something. This forest. It's the one from her paintings, he muses. This must be her playground since she was a kid. It clicks. Without even knowing it, she was sensing the raw mana in the wilds and pouring that vibe onto her canvas. So that means she is definitely. Suddenly, Diella spins around with a ragged war cry, hoisting a massive rock overhead and smashing it down with everything she's got. Derek draws his steel in a blur shing and slices the boulder in midair. Diella freezes, eyes blown wide as her ambush fails. Derek steps through the rubble, sword low. Okay, I gotta admit, you got guts. You knew you couldn't shake me, he says, so you chose to fight. Bold strategy. Couldn't have been an easy call. Diella is on all fours, gasping, shaking uncontrollably as she tries to stand. Derek looks down, pity in his eyes. You're running on fumes. He raises the blade, pointing the tip right at her. Any famous last words? Diella lets out a strained, bitter laugh. You gotta be joking. If you think I'm going to apologize, I don't grovel like common trash. She glares. Just end it. Derek lowers the blade an inch. What is with you and this bloodline obsession? Diella's shoulders tremble as she turns her face away. What else do I have? She snaps. You strip away my noble blood, and what am I? Nothing. She curls into a ball, chanting "It's magic" over and over, like a desperate prayer, tears streaming down her face. You think I never tried, she screams, digging her nails into the dirt. I grinded, I tried so hard. But it never works. If I get weeded out of everything, magic painting. If I fail at everything, I lose everything. She whispers, broken. If even my bloodline is gone, then who am I? She breaks down the question hanging in the cold air. Derek watches silent. Mana flares along his edge. He lifts the sword, high blue light crawling over the steel. Hurt enough, he says. Goodbye. The blade swings down. A sharp blue arc rips through the air, but instead of blood-jagged ice erupts from the ground around Diella, blooming upward into a glistening crystal cage. Diella freezes, eyes popping as the cold light traps her. She stares at her hands, like they belong to a stranger. Trembling, she mutters magic. Derek lowers his sword hand over his heart. Nice work, Lady Diella, he says smoothly. Pardon the scare tactics. Might not be textbook magic if it's just raw mana manifestation, he adds, but you definitely did that. Diella's breath hitches a strangled squeak escaping her throat. The cold bites deep, panic flooding her expression, and she screams until her voice cracks inside the glittering ice prison. Later, under the moonlight, Derek sits near her in the quiet forest. It means you're from the School of the Wild. Diella repeats the words, stunned. The School of the Wild. What is that? Derek nods. Exactly what I said. He breaks it down, explaining that most blue bloods stick to the rigid school of regulations. Deep down, every brand of magic shares the same core, but the grind to master it, totally different vibes. Diella stiffens as he drops the bomb. She belongs to the School of the Wild, trying to force her magic, through the strict logic of the regulations, was a recipe for disaster. It wasn't just wearing an ill-fitting dress. It was like trying to shove her soul into a shape that doesn't exist. She stares daggers at him, demanding his source. How did he clock her as a wild user? Derek smirks. The painting. He saw the raw energy she unleashed. She didn't just paint scenery. She felt the mana flowing through the earth and slapped it right onto the canvas. Derek notes that mages with wild instincts usually vibe with nature's energy from childhood. Diella stands, frozen tears drying, but gaze locked in. Derek scans her condition. Show's over. You can walk now. Diella tests her legs wobbly but standing. Not bad. With zero effort, Derek pivots away. Congrats, you succeeded in manifesting mana. But you're still a total rookie. Class starts tomorrow. I'll teach you how to let it flow naturally. She yells, his name pauses, then chokes out an awkward thanks. Derek doesn't miss a beat. Just says, let's roll. Diella panics, shouting wait up, and chases his shadow under the moonlight. He brings up the sunset art. That yours, Diella looks away, evasive. Dunno. Haven't touched a brush in ages. Derek hums. Well, it was beautifully done. Diella melts a little. It was my masterpiece, she whispers. Then she hits him with the truth. You're the first person who realized it was actually finished. Cut to morning. Sun blazes. Diella shoots up in bed. Wide awake. She raises a hand trying to summon that feeling again. A tiny whirlpool of energy sparks. Ugh, so hard. Hallway drama. A maid walks in just as the door flies open. Total jump scare. Bucket jerks, water goes flying, soaking Diella's pajamas. The maid goes pale, stuttering a mess of apologies. I'm so sorry, Diella, just glares. The maid drops to the floor, terrified, begging for her life. Watch your step, Diella snaps. The maid freezes. No slap, no screaming. She crawls back, brain short-circuiting. The gossip squad swarms. You okay? Did she hit you? The maid shakes her head. She just said, be careful. Someone whispers, what happened to her last night? Meanwhile, Diella struts down the hall. Unbothered. Cut to Derek, face planted in a pillow. Deep sleep, until bam bam bam, his name being screamed. Non-stop. He groans, rubs the sleep out of his eyes. What now? It's Dylan and the princess. Dylan's trying to play referee. My lady manners, this isn't the vibe. But Diella ignores him. Teach me, I manifested it now. Show me how to control it. She's frantic. Solo practice isn't working. Dylan's jaw drops. Wait. She manifested mana. He's questioning reality. Diella doubles down. You promised. Hurry up and teach me. Dylan tries to drag her off. Afternoon, my lady, let the man breathe. As they retreat, Dylan's sobbing tears of joy. She finally did it. Diella scoffs. But she's not done. She spins around, furious. Who gave you orders? I said later. She starts hammering the door again. Open up. Teach me right now, Derek, running on zero battery. Flops back down while the chaos rages outside. Scenic pan over the Duplan estate. Pristine roofs, blue sky. Peace and quiet, not inside. Maids are scrubbing and whispering, spilling the tea as they pass. Did you hear Lady Diella didn't smash a single plate today? Right, she got splashed with water, and didn't even throw hands. First maid leans in dropping the bomb, and they say she popped some magic too. Other maid gasps. For real. Suddenly footsteps halt. Reich appears, face twisting into a scowl. What did you just say? Later Grand Duke's office. Pen scratching on paper, tension thick enough to cut. Reich and Valerian sit opposite the big boss. The Duke recites the news calmly. Diella used magic. Valerian nods eagerly. Yes, sir. Confirmed with the head butler and staff. Duke sighs. A relief. Reich isn't buying it. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Just because she sparked a little light. Valerian snaps. Reich, that's your sister. She did magic. Show some respect. The Duke goes silent, eyes unreadable, pen scratching on. Ray isn't letting this go. He pushes back hard, reminding everyone that her track record isn't exactly clean. He insists that a tiny victory like this shouldn't be a get-out-of-jail-free card to dodge the convent. The Duke remains a statue, his true thoughts locked behind a poker face. Cut to Diella's room. Sunlight cuts through the dust, highlighting her curled up on the bed. That red dress pops against the gloom as she hugs her knees tight. Derek looms nearby, face like a stone wall. He hits her with the obvious question, you sulking. I'm not sulking. Diella snaps defensive. I'm pissed. Derek doesn't flinch. Acting salty won't fix anything, you know. I'm not being salty, Diella insists, voice rising an octave. I said I am angry. Keep pouting if you want, but it's useless. Derek drones bored. There's a pecking order here, and you can't change it. Diella spins around, face burning crimson with fury. I am not pouting. Are you deaf? I said I'm mad. Derek just stares. Dead silence. Diella grinds her teeth so hard they might crack before finally spitting out. Fine. Call it pouting. Whatever. Derek tilts his head, actually thrown off by the sudden surrender. He drags a chair over, cracking open a book. Listen, just because you unlocked magic doesn't mean you can spam it. That'll backfire. He glances up, dead serious. Take it from someone who learned the hard way. Rest matters just as much as the grind. But you've chilled enough. Time to hit the books. Diella crosses her arms and lets out a loud, dramatic scoff. Of course, the boring teach would say that. She rolls her eyes and sarcastically announces, and here comes the stiff lecture. Suddenly, the room feels heavy. Shadows stretch as Derek's red eyes narrow, slicing through the air like daggers. The atmosphere crushes down. Want me to teach you the fun way instead? He asks, voice dropping. Flashback to last night's fireball explosion. Diella flinches, terror flashing in her eyes. Nope, I'll forget it, she yelps, scrambling back. Derek kills the killing intent, instantly. Totally chill again, he raises a hand. Today's agenda, magic manifestation, one-on-one. Master this flow, and you'll be casting one-star spells in no time. The School of the Wild doesn't do rigid rules, he explains. It's perfect for solo grinding. Way more freedom than those stiff regulations at the academy. He pauses. Honestly, you're a perfect fit for the wild style. Diella's scowl wavers, confused by the compliment. She gives him a guarded side-eye. What's that supposed to mean? Derek locks eyes with her, not blinking. Exactly what I said. Your chaotic energy, it vibes perfectly with the School of the Wild. Plus, you've got that Duplin blood running through your veins. You're dripping with raw talent. Diella's eyes go wide as saucers. Wait, are you calling me talented? She stammers, caught off guard. Absolutely, Derek nods. Conjuring an ice wall the second you awakened, that's top-tier potential. Diella beams, practically glowing with ego. So, I'm like a genius. Derek shuts that down. Talent and genius are two different brackets. Potato potato, same thing, she snaps. Nope, different, Derek counters. She huffs, annoyed. Fine, I'm just amazing then. She flips her hair. What's next? Meanwhile, outside the window, Ray overhears the banter drifting from the room. He clicks his tongue, face twisting in pure irritation. Montage start. Next day. Diella rushes Derek. I got the manifestation down, but the aim is trash. Look, she waves, swirling mana in his face. Day 2. I tried adding frost damage, but it feels glitchy, she complains, looking defeated. Derek sits at the table, spoon in one hand, spellbook in the other, multitasking like a pro while she rants. Another day, another chase scene in the hallway. I feel the magic, but the vibe is weird. Derek keeps walking, nose buried in his notes. Sunset. Golden hour by the tree. Diella storms up like a hurricane once again. Derek, she screams, demanding attention. What are you even doing out here? I told you to stick to the annex. Did Dad lend you those books so you could slack off? He nods shamelessly. Yup, pretty much. She glares daggers, then yanks his sleeve. Whatever, I got the magic to flow, like you said. Now hurry up and check my work. Later, scene shift to Valerian, standing in a sunlit office, hands clasped behind his back. The door creaks open. You sent for me, Derek asks. Have a seat, Valerian says, voice serious. We need to chat. How's my sister doing? Derek doesn't sugarcoat it. She's leveling up fast, but mastering one-star magic. That's gonna take a grind. Understood, Valerian nods. Then the tone shifts. Mother is returning from her social tour next week. He leans in, voice low. I'm warning you now, she's a boss fight you can't take lightly. The staff here are chill but nobles. They despise seeing commoners in power positions. You get that right. You aware of that bias? Derek nods slowly. I'll keep my guard up. Is that the only reason you summoned me? Valerian takes a heavy pause, the weight of the future settling on his shoulders. Being the next head of House Duplin isn't just a title, it's a whole vibe he has to embody. It means wrapping his arms around the entire family legacy. To really pull that off, he's got to be 100% real with every single member. No faking it. But man, that's the hard part. The human heart. It's like this bottomless ocean of secrets. It'd be a total dream if everyone just synced up on their values. But let's be real, that ain't reality. Derek cuts the philosophy lesson short, asking bro, what are you actually getting at? Valerian drops the bomb. Diella totally ghosted him. She won't play. He gets all nostalgic, flashing back to when they were tiny tots, and she'd greet him with that blinding smile. He sighs, asking the universe where he's supposed to find another literal angel like that on this planet. Then he hits Derek with the million-dollar question. Is there a cheat code? How do I get on Diella's good side? Derek raises an eyebrow like, why ask me? Valerian shoots back. Because you're the only one she actually follows around, dude. Right on cue, Diella's voice echoes from the garden, screaming for Derek like he's lost. Derek tries to bounce, but Valerian blocks his path. Hold up. You gotta see this first, Valerian insists. He reveals his secret quarantine hobby, doll making, learned from the maids. What's the verdict? He holds up this stitched-together mini Diella, grinning. Spitting image right. Can you feel the big brother love radiating off it? Derek stares at the thing with dead eyes. Are you trying to put a hex on her? Valerian flinches. Totally crushed. Useless. You're useless at emotions. Cut to the manor hall a bit later. Derek is standing there feeling the tension. The staff enters formation as a woman with a lethal elegance glides in. She flashes a practiced smile. I've heard the rumors, she purrs. They say we found a very capable magic teacher. She introduces herself as Morella Diablo Duplin, radiating pure boss energy. She mentions sending a gift from her turf if it's not too much trouble. Derek keeps it straight. I'm not affiliated with any house. Morella blinks. Excuse me. I'm a commoner. Morella freezes, eyes popping like he just spoke an alien language. A. Commoner. Rewind 1 week. A fancy carriage pulls up to the Grand Duke's driveway. Aislinn is hyping Derek up, saying she's glad he's on board. As the big sis, she wants to stick to Diella like glue. But business in Ebelstein is calling her name, so she's passing the baton to him. Derek nods. Copy that. Jaden slaps Derek's back, cracking jokes. Trusting you with her sister. Man, you sound thrilled. Just wrap it up fast and get back here, Jaden warns. If Pelin finds out, she's going to throw a massive fit again. Counting on you, buddy. As they prep to roll out, Aislinn gasps, slamming her hands over her mouth. Oops. Totally forgot. Jaden looks at her. Forgot what Aislinn admits mom's coming back next week. And I forgot to give Derek the heads up. Jaden asks, is that something he needs a warning for? Aislinn shudders, her inner monologue going wild. Let's just say, Mom is basically the goddess of rage. Back in the present, the office doors slam open, total power move. Morella storms in, radiating fury. Explain. Why is a nobody teaching my daughter? What is this joke? The Grand Duke doesn't flinch. I'm not deaf, Morella. Volume down. She snaps back. My volume isn't the issue here. This is Diella, our baby, the Grand Duke sighs, saying her name with that tired husband tone. Look, you know I hate handing jobs to commoners. It's not my style. But every high-blood teacher quit. They couldn't hack it. Morella isn't having it. So you hired some guy who rolled out of a mercenary pit. The Grand Duke states the facts. Finding a legit magic teacher is a nightmare. Plus Aislinn vouched for him. Morella bristles. So what? We have standards to maintain. What about my brother? Flam Morella argues. He was busy before, but now that Diella has magic, he should step up. So, if Flam comes, the Duke cuts her off cold. You want to yank the guy managing the territory to play private tutor. You think running Ebelstein is going to work if we treat it like a side hustle? Morella counters, screaming about reputation. The Ebelstein social circle isn't a game either. It's a war zone out there, in society, who teaches you is everything. She rages. Derek is a nobody, no last name. Do you want Diella to be the punchline? Of her debutante ball, Valerian steps in, putting a calming hand on her shoulder. Mom, breathe. You didn't fly all the way here just to brawl with Dad, right? Morella shrugs him off. Back off, Valerian. We can't let this slide. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the noise. In the end, the real question is whether this peasant actually has the skills to teach Diella right mother. Ray steps into the light, ice cold and composed. A commoner teaching a noble. Let's test that theory. This isn't just a deviation from the norm. The vibe is completely off. Rhaeg throws shade, implying that if this commoner is actually legit, then proving it shouldn't be an issue. He decides to stress test the man named Derek right now and challenges him to a magic duel on the spot. The Grand Duke shuts that down instantly with a single commanding word, enough. He confirms that Derek is the real deal, a certified mage. Rhaeg goes quiet, eyes narrowing, then shifts the crosshairs. What about testing Diella? His logic is sharp. If Derek is such a god-tier instructor, then his student Diella should be showing elite results by now. He volunteers to personally spar with Diella to verify her skills. The moment they leave the office, Valerian snaps, calling out Rhaeg's name, and demanding to know what kind of game he is playing with this sparring nonsense. Rhaeg stays ice cold. He asks if Valerian seriously believes Diella has turned her life around or if he conveniently forgot the chaos she caused. Valerian pushes back. She is their sister, their only sister, and they need to protect her, not attack her. Rhaeg laughs bitterly at the mention of blood ties, claiming that her blood is the poison trying to bring their entire house to the ground. He warns that if she debuts in high society like this, it is game over. For the Dupin legacy. Valerian stares, shocked by the venom. Is that really how he feels? Rhaeg doesn't flinch. Diella crossed the line first. In his eyes, the only solution is to lock her away in the annex and throw away the key. Early the next morning, birds are chirping peacefully, until Diella kicks the door open, screaming Derek's name. Derek glances up from his spellbook, unfazed by the chaos. Diella slams the duel notice onto the table and yells that the stakes are lethal. If she loses this spar, he gets fired. Derek nods. He already knows. He notes that young Master Rhaeg is a seasoned one-star mage, so winning is going to be a nightmare. Diella loses it, demanding if that is his only advice. Screaming again that his job is on the line, Derek remains seated, clutching the scroll calmly. He reminds her that he is a mercenary. He does the job, he secures the bag, and he moves on. That is the code. He adds that the pay he received was already more than generous. Diella's rage melts into heartbreak. She asks if he truly means that. 1 week later, the Dupin banners snap in the wind above the estate. The courtyard is packed with attendants standing, in rigid formation. The Grand Duke emerges with his wife and butler, his gaze locked forward, looking like a judge ready to deliver a verdict. Derek stands waiting, cloak pulled tight against the chill. He notes the Duke's arrival and adjusts his gear without a hint of shaking hands. The Grand Duke observes him, realizing Derek has zero nerves. He wonders if it is arrogance or genuine confidence. The Duke admits the guy has guts. To be so calm in a high-stakes moment like this, he is not someone to underestimate. Then heavy boots echo on the pavement. Rhaeg marches in cape, swaying his face, a mask of cold fury. To Reg, this isn't a friendly spar. He swears to himself that today he will absolutely break Diella. He plans to make her regret her past with every bone in her body. Diella enters the arena in a red hood, her steps small but determined. Her mind flashes back to that moment last week, looking up at Derek, and asking if he was serious, that he really doesn't care as long as he gets paid. Derek's answer echoes. She must have noticed it too. Her magical growth has finally clicked. He admits she can't sling 1 star spells just yet, but she is close. He tells her the reason is simple. She has Dupine blood running through her veins. Diella flinches at the word blood, confused by the sudden compliment. Derek asks if he forgot to mention it. He explains the School of the Wild. It is a brutal philosophy focused on survival and self-study, not spoon-feeding. Diella cracks, shouting through her tears, asking why he is getting sentimental now, of all times. Her eyes tremble, but she forces the words out. She admits she knows she is a terrible student, but she refuses to learn from anyone else. She wants him as her teacher, period. Derek stays silent, back turned to her, the wind whipping his cloak. Finally, he speaks up. He admits he doesn't know the fancy etiquette of noble duels. He has never played by their rules. But even so, he can teach her how to survive a street fight. He asks her one thing: do you want to win? The memory fades, replaced by darkness. Toxic whispers snake through the crowd. Spectators sneer that Lady Diella has zero magic potential, mocking that even the famous instructor gave up on a lost cause. Someone wonders how a failure like her came from the Dupin line, while others mutter that the House of Dupin is washed up. Voices complain that the little brat is nothing but a headache, speculating that the Grand Duke must be drowning in stress. Others say thank God for Lady Aislinn, while one cruel voice spits that this child is the curse that will ruin them all. The final dagger comes from the crowd, better not to have been born at all, and Diella hears every single word. Tears are clinging to her lashes, but that gaze, pure steel as she locks eyes with Derek. Her demand is simple: make me the winner. Snap back to reality. Diella steps into the arena, shedding every label she owns. She isn't here as Reg's little sister or the baby of House Duplin. Right now, she stands tall as Derek's disciple, a true mage. The Duplin crest snaps in the wind above the estate as Lady Diella advances her red-hooded cloak, billowing as she stares down Reg with piercing green eyes. The butler clears his throat, cutting the tension to announce they're running strictly by the sparring regulations used by the elite mages at the Ibelstein-Kelbrum Salon. He lays it out, whichever side triggers. General Pelham's protective magic circle first takes the L. Reg clenches his jaw, 0 patience left, and declares it's time to start. Derek watches from the sidelines silent. His eyes track that pendant General Pelham's barrier, recognizing the tech immediately. It's a failsafe that kicks in right before the wearer takes critical damage, completely canceling the incoming spell. Typical noble behavior, he thinks, wasting a fortune on high-tier gear for a meaningless practice match. The clock is set for 10 minutes, but reading the room, Derek knows Reg plans to speedrun this whole fight. Reg raises a hand, chanting, and green rings of mana spiral out like a hurricane. As the crushing pressure sweeps the terrace, Reg is already thinking about sending Diella packing back to the annex. Diella's cloak whips violently in the turbulence. She stands statue still until the blast is inches away, then snaps a hard dodge to the side and breaks into a sprint. Reg's expression turns icy watching her escape. The audacity of her to actually try, he fumes. He sweeps his arm again, launching another surge to flatten her. But Diella keeps her momentum bracing and deflecting with raw, unpolished 1-star magic. Derek analyzes her form. She's handling the basics with surprising fluency, but she's still a total rookie in actual combat. He catches the flaw immediately. She's forcing the magic's trajectory, just to make her parries connect. At this rate, he realizes she's going to burn through her mana tank in record time. She plants her feet, shoving her mana outward to manifest a towering wall of ice. The green energy slams into the barricade, and she scrambles sideways, barely threading the needle through the gaps in the swirling chaos as the wind magic hooks after her. Reg glares at the ice wall, unimpressed. To him, it's just a brute force manifestation, not a refined, star-ranked technique. He scoffs internally. She can't block him with cheap parlor tricks. He decides to end this with overwhelming firepower. His eyes flash as he dares her to tank the next hit, gathering multiple green spell orbs that churn and swell like a concentrated typhoon. The atmospheric pressure drops, and Diella's breath comes in ragged gasps. But then Derek's lesson floods her mind the way he drilled it into her psyche. Mercenaries don't fight like nobles. We don't care about honor or fair play. The only thing that matters is the W. She replays his warning: this isn't a polite duel. Winning ugly might get her hate, but she can still choose the timeline where she wins. She remembers him asking if she could handle that weight. Diella tightens her trembling fists, lifts her chin, and answers the memory with 0 hesitation. I am. She stands firm in her red hood, blue eyes locked forward. Green mana slashes the air in crescent blades, pressure rolling in like a natural disaster. Diella drops her center of gravity and sprints. cloak flaring as she slips just past the razor's edge of the wind flow. The green arc carves into the floor with a violent hiss, gouging the wood and sending splinters flying exactly where she stood a split second ago. She doesn't stop. Derek's voice echoes in her head again. In the merc world, there are guys who keep winning matches they have no business winning, even against stronger opponents. Why? Because they don't duel, they fight. She reminds herself that fighting means owning the battlefield, using the terrain, the debris, the environment, using absolutely anything and everything to snatch victory. She forces herself to focus on the one thing that matters, seizing that microscopic window when the enemy drops their guard. Reg tightens his stance, driving another spell forward, arrogant enough to call the match right there. The blast hammers down with crushing weight, fracturing her ice defense, while a second wind slash blindsides her. The impact tears across the terrace, kicking up a massive cloud of dust and rubble. Derek watches ice cold. Meanwhile, their mother loses it, screaming for Diella to stop the spar. Convinced her daughter is hurt, the Grand Duke shuts her down instantly. Sit down, he commands. It's not over. When she protests, insisting Diella clearly took a direct hit, he cuts her off. You're wrong. General Pelham's circle didn't trigger. The Grand Duke falls silent, eyes glued to the dust cloud without blinking. Down below, Derek sits motionless as stone, his red eyes laser-focused on the terrace. The Duke shifts his gaze to Derek. Noticing the boy hasn't even flinched, he wonders, did Derek already know Diella had leveled up this much? Back on the terrace, Reg's face drops. He's staring at the smoke, thinking there is no way she didn't get hit by that. Confusion paralyzes him. Why is the magic circle dead? His eyes frantically sweep the area, hunting for any trace of her. Crack. The sound splits the air near his boot. Before he can even twitch, a jagged glacier explodes from the floorboards beneath him. The impact is brutal, blindsiding him completely, and launching him off his feet with a pained grunt. He eats dirt hard, skidding across the terrace as his body contorts, face twisted in absolute shock. Ray's jaw tightens enough to snap. Cold sweat drips as the realization hits the attack came from under the stage. He snaps his head toward the official on the sidelines. According to the Kelburn Salon rulebook, leaving the platform is an automatic loss. But when silence hangs in the air, a bitter, cynical laugh echoes in his mind. Unbelievable. They are actually counting underneath the floor as still being in the arena. Teeth grinding, he fumes. The high and mighty nobles probably never imagined a gutter tactic like this in their precious duels. He stalks across the fractured wood, slowing as he approaches a broken gap to peer into the abyss. Instantly, another violent roar shakes the stage. Razor-sharp ice spires shoot upward, forcing him to scramble back as blue death pierces the air. Wood splinters rain down like confetti. He lands in a defensive crouch among the shards, his cloak whipping in the wind. His eyes dart wildly across the battlefield. Ray swallows the lump in his throat. He can't hit what he can't see. And then the terrifying math hits him. She doesn't need a combo. She just needs to land one solid hit. Face hardening, he realizes this isn't a duel anymore. Noble etiquette has left the chat. He shouts Diella's name, scanning the wreckage, until his gaze locks onto a gaping crater in the platform. He leans over the edge. There she is, crouched in the dusty gloom, red hood, framing a face that is terrifyingly calm. She looks up, eyes burning with a laser-focused intensity. Ray's breath hitches, déjà vu slams into him. He knows that look. It's the same dead-eyed, eerie calm Derek had back when Ray's older brother grabbed him by the collar. Ray's expression turns venomous. There is no way she cooked this up solo. His eyes flick to the stands, landing on Derek, who sits there, arms crossed, completely unbothered. Pure rage boils in Ray's gut, that scum. This has Derek's fingerprints all over it. Ray grabs his cloak's clasp, rips it open, and flings the heavy fabric aside, watching it spin through the air and land near the ice spikes. He straightens up, raising a hand, accepting the twisted nature of this fight. Fine, he snaps. I'll play along. He declares he is done holding back against her little scheme. The duel rages on. Ray stands isolated on the skeletal remains of the platform, stone cracked and obliterated by his own misfired magic. Broken planks jut out at crazy angles. Dust chokes the air. The arena looks less like a noble court and more like a war zone. Up on the balcony, the Duchess is losing it. She's gasping in disbelief, calling Diella a disgrace for crawling around in a filth pit like a rat. Voice trembling, she begs her husband to pull the plug on this farce. But the Duke, stone, cold. He says watch closely, because technically the girl hasn't broken a single rule. His poker face is unreadable as he tracks the chaos below. Deep in the substage darkness, Diella kneels. Shards of ice float around her, glowing faintly, illuminating the grit on her face. Her eyes are wide, unblinking, burning with absolute focus. In the silence, something shifts. For the first time, she sees it. The mana currents flowing through the air like neon streams. Above ground, Ray freezes. A shiver runs down his spine as he feels her presence change. Surprise flashes on his face too late. Jagged ice pillars erupt from the depths. He barely dodge rolls backward, boots scraping cracked stone as the spikes demolish the spot he just vacated. Gritting his teeth, he realizes her game plan. She's spawn camping his spells. Every time he tries to chant, she interrupts. But he refuses to fold. Sweat beads on his temple as his eyes frantically scan the ruined arena. He needs an angle, anything. Then he spots it, a tall flagpole on the edge. A reckless Hail Mary idea forms. Underground. Diella senses the shift immediately. Ray's mana flow has gone silent. He's stopped casting. He is plotting something. She braces herself coiled and ready to strike the second. She feels his magic flare up again. On the sidelines, the old butler is practically hyperventilating, whispering the young master's name in pure panic. Suddenly, Ray moves. He launches himself, scrambling up the flagpole with insane speed. Climbing high, he figures the vertical distance will keep him out of her range and protect his mana flow. But there is a catch. Balancing on a wobbly pole makes chanting impossible. He sees one path to victory. He decides to nuke the whole area with his remaining power. He charges up a silent ultimate, packing enough raw damage to delete the entire platform instantly, no incantation needed. Hovering high above with the wind screaming, he pulls the trigger. A massive energy nuke crashes into the stands below, and it's heading straight for Derek.